Sophia had always been known as the quiet one. Growing up in the Morgan household, she was the child who never argued, who always did her chores, and who smiled even when her heart was heavy. Her elder sister, Victoria, on the other hand, was fiery and bold. Neighbors praised her beauty and confidence, often overlooking Sophia's quiet grace. Their mother, Margaret, encouraged this imbalance. "Victoria will marry a rich man one day," she would often boast. She was born to shine. Sophia, though hurt, never complained. She had learned early that her place in the family was not to outshine her sister, but to remain in her shadow. But Sophia's life began to change when she met Thomas. Thomas was not the wealthy suitor her mother dreamed of for her daughters. He was simple, hard-working, and kind. Sophia met him at a church gathering, and what drew her in was his humility. He listened when she spoke, something she wasn't used to at home. Slowly, their friendship turned into love, and eventually, Thomas asked for her hand in marriage. Margaret wasn't pleased. "Are you sure, Sophia? He has no money, no status. You deserve better," she had said. But Sophia stood her ground for the first time. "Mother, I don't want riches. I want peace. Thomas gives me that." Reluctantly, Margaret allowed the marriage, though her dissatisfaction lingered in her eyes. Sophia and Thomas settled into a modest home. Their life wasn't luxurious, but it was peaceful. They cooked together, laughed at silly jokes, and supported one another. Sophia believed she had finally found happiness outside the shadows of her family. Every morning, Thomas would kiss her forehead before leaving for work. "You're my treasure, Sophia. I don't care about what the world says," he would whisper. Those words melted her heart each time. Little did she know that her happiness was being watched by envious eyes. It started innocently. Victoria visited their home one weekend, smiling sweetly. "I just wanted to see how you're doing," she told Sophia, giving Thomas a quick glance that Sophia missed. Soon, the visits became more frequent. She would drop by unannounced, staying until late at night. She would laugh loudly with Thomas about things Sophia didn't always understand, inserting herself into their meals, conversations, and even their private jokes. Sophia's heart began to stir uneasily, but she brushed it aside. After all, Victoria was her sister. One night, Sophia woke up thirsty and went to the kitchen. On her way, she heard voices in the living room. To her shock, it was Victoria and her mother, Margaret, speaking in hushed tones. "He loves me, not Sophia," Victoria said firmly. "I can see it in his eyes. I'm the one he should be with." Margaret's reply shattered Sophia's world. "Then she must step aside. You are the elder sister. You deserve him more than she does." Sophia stood frozen, her heart pounding. Her own mother, the woman who raised her, was conspiring to take away her husband. Sophia lay awake that night, her mind spinning. She wanted to believe she had heard wrongly, but her mother's voice echoed in her head. The next morning, she tried to act normal as she served breakfast, but her hands shook as she placed the cup of tea in front of Thomas. "Are you all right, Sophia?" Thomas asked, concern in his eyes. "I'm fine," she forced a smile, though her heart was bleeding. She wanted to ask him, "Do you love Victoria?" But fear held her back. She was scared of hearing the truth. Days later, Margaret came to visit. She sent Thomas out on an errand and then cornered Sophia in the kitchen. "Sophia, you must listen to me," her mother said coldly. "Victoria and Thomas are meant for each other. Don't stand in their way." Sophia's knees weakened. "Mother, how can you say that? He is my husband. I love him, and he chose me." Margaret's eyes hardened. "You will find another man. But Victoria is older. She must not be shamed by you keeping a man who truly desires her." Sophia's tears fell freely, but Margaret's heart showed no mercy. Thomas began acting strangely. He would come home later than usual, often claiming work kept him back. When Sophia asked, he snapped, "Why are you always suspicious? Don't you trust me?" She wanted to believe him, but then she noticed how his eyes lingered on Victoria whenever she was around. Sophia's chest tightened each time. The love that once filled their home now seemed to be slipping away. One evening, Sophia could no longer hold it in. As Thomas sat on the couch scrolling through his phone, she stood before him. "Thomas, tell me the truth," she said firmly. "Do you love my sister?" He looked up, startled. "What kind of question is that, Sophia? Answer me," she cried, her voice shaking. Thomas avoided her gaze. "You're imagining things. Stop letting jealousy ruin us." But his silence spoke louder than words. The truth hit Sophia like a dagger when she walked into her own home one afternoon and found Thomas and Victoria laughing together, holding hands as though she didn't exist. "Thomas!" she gasped, her heart shattering. Victoria stood boldly. "Stop acting surprised, Sophia. He belongs to me now." Sophia turned to her husband, tears streaming. "Thomas, is this true?" Thomas lowered his eyes. I don't know how it happened, Sophia, but I can't deny my feelings for Victoria." Her world collapsed in that instant. Sophia ran to her mother's house, desperate for comfort. But Margaret's response was cruel. "Mother, they betrayed me," she cried. "You must talk to Victoria. She can't do this to me." Margaret folded her arms. "Enough, Sophia. Stop crying like a child. Thomas has chosen Victoria, and you must respect that. Leave him for her." "Mother, how can you say that? I am your daughter too." "You are my daughter, yes. But Victoria is my firstborn. I will not let you bring disgrace by dragging this matter." Sophia's knees gave way as she realized she was truly alone. News spread quickly. Neighbors whispered whenever Sophia walked past. Her own sister took her husband, some said in pity, while others mocked her weakness. Sophia felt her dignity being stripped away. At the market, women looked at her with sad eyes. "You must be strong, Sophia," an older woman told her. "Do not let them crush you." But strength was hard to find when even her own mother turned against her. Nights became unbearable. Sophia would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of her marriage. She remembered Thomas's promises, his gentle kisses, his whispered words of love. Were they all lies? Victoria's laughter echoed in her mind. Her mother's cold words haunted her. Sophia clutched her pillow and wept silently until dawn. One evening, Sophia's childhood friend, Rachel, came to visit. She found Sophia pale and broken. "Sophia, you can't keep living like this," Rachel said, holding her hand. "What do I do, Rachel? They've taken everything from me. My husband, my family." Rachel squeezed her hand. "You still have yourself. Don't let them destroy you. Sometimes walking away with dignity is stronger than fighting for what is already gone." Sophia listened, but her heart wasn't ready to let go. Things worsened when Margaret hosted a family gathering. "In front of everyone," she announced, "Thomas will no longer be with Sophia. He and Victoria are destined for each other. Sophia must accept this." Gasps filled the room. Sophia felt her soul leave her body as relatives turned their eyes to her. Some pitied her, others whispered cruel words. Victoria stood beside Thomas, smiling proudly as though she had won a prize. Sophia's voice trembled as she said, "Mother, how could you humiliate me like this?" Margaret only replied coldly, "It is for the good of this family." Thomas moved out of the home he shared with Sophia. When she asked him why, he simply said, "I can't pretend anymore. I'm sorry." He left with Victoria, leaving Sophia in an empty house that once echoed with love. Sophia fell to her knees, clutching the floor as tears streamed down her face. She had lost everything, her husband, her family, her dignity. Days turned into weeks. Sophia wandered around the house like a ghost. The silence was deafening. She could hardly eat, and her body grew weaker. But in the stillness, she began to think deeply. If my own mother and sister could betray me, then perhaps God is the only one I can trust. She whispered prayers each night, asking for strength to rise again. One morning, Sophia looked into the mirror. Her swollen eyes and frail body stared back at her. "Enough," she whispered. "I will not let them destroy me." She began to rebuild her life, starting with small steps, cooking for herself, cleaning her home, and going back to the market without shame. The whispers of people no longer pierced her heart. She decided she would rise again, even if it meant doing so alone. At the market, Sophia met Daniel, an old acquaintance from her school days. He greeted her warmly. "Sophia, it's been years. How have you been?" She hesitated, then forced a smile. "I've been surviving." Daniel's eyes softened. "You've always been strong, Sophia. Don't let anyone make you forget that." For the first time in months, Sophia felt a spark of hope. Though her heart still carried wounds, Sophia began to see life differently. She realized that losing Thomas and being betrayed by her family was painful, but it also freed her. She was no longer living under her mother's control or her sister's shadow. One evening, as she stood outside watching the sunset, she whispered to herself, "They took my husband, but they cannot take my spirit." And with that, Sophia decided she would rise, not to prove them wrong, but to prove to herself that she was more than the betrayal she endured. Sophia threw herself into work to distract from her pain. She started a small tailoring business, something she had always dreamed of but never pursued while married. With her skillful hands, she began sewing clothes for women in her neighborhood. Slowly, people recognized her talent, and orders increased. Every stitch became a way of mending her broken heart. Whenever she felt tears rising, she reminded herself, "I am not defined by what they took from me. I am defined by what I build for myself." Meanwhile, life with Victoria and Thomas was not as rosy as it appeared. Victoria, used to being adored, grew jealous and demanding. She nagged Thomas over little things. "Why don't you buy me jewelry? Why don't you earn more money?" Thomas, already weighed down by guilt, felt suffocated. He often thought of Sophia, her gentleness, her patience, her quiet love, but pride stopped him from returning. Word spread that Thomas and Victoria's home was filled with constant arguments. People whispered, "It seems Sophia was the better wife after all." One afternoon, Victoria stormed into Sophia's shop. Her eyes were filled with anger. "So this is what you're doing now? Playing tailor for villagers," she mocked. Sophia kept her calm. "At least I am working with my hands, Victoria, not living off a man's sweat." Victoria's face twisted with rage. "Don't act holy. You'll never have what I have." Sophia smiled sadly. "You may have taken my husband, but you'll never have my peace." Victoria left, slamming the door. For the first time, Sophia felt no fear standing up to her sister. Daniel became a frequent visitor. Sometimes he stopped by her shop, bringing her lunch or helping her carry fabrics. "You're stronger than you think, Sophia," he told her one evening. "When I see you work, I see a woman who has survived fire and come out shining." Sophia blushed slightly but kept quiet. She wasn't ready for love. Still, Daniel's words gave her courage. Margaret, who had once turned her back on Sophia, suddenly fell ill. Victoria and Thomas were too busy with their quarrels to care for her. It was Sophia, the rejected daughter, who came to her side. As Sophia fed her soup, Margaret wept. "I wronged you, my child. I told you to give up your husband, and now I see how wrong I was." Sophia's tears flowed, but she only said, "Rest, mother. I forgive you." Victoria's greed grew unbearable. She demanded more from Thomas than he could provide. She compared him to other men, belittling him constantly. One night, neighbors heard her shouting, "You should have stayed with Sophia. Maybe she would be satisfied with your miserable income." "But I'm not." Thomas, humiliated, realized he had lost not only a faithful wife but also his peace of mind. Guilt tormented Thomas. He went to Sophia's shop one evening. She looked up in shock when she saw him. "Sophia, I made a mistake," he whispered. "I should never have left you." Sophia's eyes welled up, but her voice was steady. "You didn't just leave me, Thomas. You betrayed me with my own sister." He dropped his head in shame. "Forgive me. I want to make things right." Sophia shook her head. "Some wounds never heal. Go back to your wife." Margaret's illness worsened, and she called for Sophia. With trembling hands, she said, "You are the daughter who truly loved me. Forgive me for favoring Victoria all my life." Sophia held her hand and whispered, "I forgave you long ago, Mother." With tears in her eyes, Margaret blessed Sophia before taking her final breath. Victoria wept bitterly, but Sophia's heart was at peace. She had chosen forgiveness over bitterness. After their mother's burial, Victoria's marriage collapsed completely. Thomas walked out on her, unable to endure her pride and disrespect. Neighbors shook their heads. She destroyed her sister's marriage only to lose hers. Karma never fails. Victoria tried to return to Sophia, but Sophia kept her distance. She no longer hated her sister, but she had learned a painful lesson. Some relationships were too toxic to embrace closely again. Months later, Daniel came to Sophia with flowers in his hands. "Sophia," he began nervously, "I have watched you rebuild yourself from ashes. You are strong, beautiful, and kind. I would be honored if you would allow me to walk this road of life with you." Tears filled Sophia's eyes. For the first time, her heart was open. "Daniel, you've been a true friend. I'm willing to give love another chance." Sophia and Daniel's friendship blossomed into a tender romance. Unlike Thomas, Daniel valued her for who she was. He admired her resilience, encouraged her dreams, and stood by her side with unwavering loyalty. Sophia felt safe again, not because she had a man, but because she had found herself before finding love. When Victoria heard that Daniel and Sophia were planning to marry, she mocked her. "So you settled for a poor tailor's assistant?" Typical Sophia. Sophia only smiled. "Peace is better than gold, Victoria. You should have learned that by now." Victoria's words no longer had power over her. Sophia and Daniel married in a simple ceremony. Unlike her first marriage, this one was filled with genuine joy. Her friends and neighbors celebrated her victory over pain. As she looked into Daniel's eyes, Sophia whispered, "Thank you for seeing me when everyone else overlooked me." He smiled. "Thank you for choosing to rise again." Sophia's life became an example in her community. Women admired her strength, saying, "She lost everything, but she rebuilt herself." When young girls came to her for advice, she told them, "Never let anyone, family or not, decide your worth. Stand for yourself, even if you stand alone." Years later, Sophia sat outside her home, watching her children play with Daniel. Her heart was finally at peace. She thought of the pain she had endured, the betrayal of Thomas, the cruelty of Victoria, the rejection of her own mother. Yet she realized that without that storm, she would never have discovered her true strength. Looking at the sunset, Sophia whispered, "They took my husband, but they couldn't take my destiny. I am more than their betrayal. I am whole." And with a smile, she embraced the new life she had built, rising from the ashes of pain into the beauty of freedom.